Google got more sophisticated in, making it harder for SEO people to like kind of trick their algorithm. So this whole industry matured, and so ultimately now you're seeing that chatbots are replacing search engines. Is it as simple as that?
So when we look at conversion rates of the traffic, the conversion rate of ChatGPT is for most companies higher than for traffic from Google. And I've seen numbers like 6 times higher, 10 times higher. The highest I saw was 23 times higher. So what happens in Google is my whole user journey consists of searches, right? And all of these searches, they trigger a click to a website. It's measurable. Somebody sees this in their web analytics. But in ChatGPT, I never need to go to another website. So when I then actually leave ChatGPT, I'm already qualified. I've already made a decision.
All right, GM, and welcome to a new episode of OGC Podcast, the show that tries to unpack everything growth in crypto and the on-chain economy. And today we have a really, really interesting guest here, which is not going to be like a dedicated crypto episode, but I think it's a very highly relevant platform and technology and marketing channel that we're trying to dive into. It revolves around how can we optimize our products, our services, our websites, our marketing to be more visible in LLMs like ChatGPT, etc. So with this, I'm very, very excited to have Malte Landwehr here, who is the CMO at Peec AI, a startup that builds in the space. Welcome, Malte. How are you doing today?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Amazing. So 2 Germans speaking English, both based in Berlin. I think you might be my first German guest here, but we want to draw an international crowd, so we're going to obviously make this do this in English. I'm really excited to have you on here. I do have an SEO background as well. I think like one of my first online marketing roles was in SEO. So like from way back in the past, I still know what that means. And it seems like we have a new era of discoverability and, being visible online for brands, for companies, for services, etc. And I would suggest we kick it off by you giving us a little bit of an introduction about yourself.
Yeah, sure. As you said, I'm Malte Landwehr, currently the Chief Marketing and Chief Product Officer at Peec AI, a startup from Berlin that works in this GEO space or geo or AI search or however what we want to call it when people type questions into ChatGPT and similar systems. I've mainly worked in SEO, also done some product management, done a little bit of management consulting, and spent the last 5 years at Idealo, one of the largest price comparison websites in Europe, probably the largest. So did a lot of enterprise SEO, e-commerce SEO for a website with over 100 million URLs. And then, a while ago made the change to Peec AI because I wanted to be part of this space.
Really, really cool. Yeah, you seem to be like a real search veteran. Like looking through your profile, like your experience goes way back. So I think you've seen this entire, as we say now, Web 2 era of search. I don't know. Are you into crypto at all? I mean, this is a podcast, mostly focusing on stuff around crypto and Web 3 and on chain. So what's your exposure to crypto?
So I discovered it very early and was fascinated by it. But I didn't buy anything. It was very stupid. I was totally convinced that like contracts on Ethereum and stuff like that will become huge at some point. And I think Ethereum was at less than $1 then, but I didn't buy anything. I went in way too late. I had a little bit of luck.
You are invested now?
I exited most of my positions. I have a little bit of money in Bitcoin, but nothing that's relevant anymore. I was often lucky with the timing of buying. Like I had some stuff go 10x within a few days, but then I was never lucky with the selling. So I've given up on that, and I made the mistake of like investing more when something was running really well, and I realized in crypto for many coins you just have to get out when you see the 10x.
Yeah.
So I think I lost as much as I made, and now I'm no longer trading anything.
Well, I mean, you're riding another big technology wave, which is AI, which is also not too bad. So I think you're you're also well positioned there. But yeah, this podcast is not supposed to be about investing in crypto, but actually building in crypto and growth in crypto and marketing in crypto. And I think, the area that you're focusing on right now is super, super interesting. Also for me personally, super curious to learn about it. So I would like to start with asking you. You had a VP role at a pretty decent company that is doing quite well. So I guess kind of a safe and good job. What made you move? What made you decide to move into that new space?
Yeah, so I mean, I was responsible for SEO, which was the #1 marketing channel for Idealo. And of course, I noticed traffic from ChatGPT picking up. According to SimilarWeb, Idealo for a long time was actually the most successful e-commerce company in Germany in both ChatGPT and Perplexity. I still have some screenshot where SimilarWeb suggests that 2% of all clicks from ChatGPT in Germany went to Idealo, something I was
Wow.
quite proud of back then. And then I went on vacation to South Korea with my wife. And just as a joke, I set myself the challenge, I don't want to use Google. I think I used Google like 10, 12 times. Twice to find a website and like 10 times for spell checking. And any other search I had, I put in ChatGPT. And maybe there were a few hallucinations, but if they were there, they did not impact me in a negative way. Like every restaurant that was recommended was great. Every place where we went that was recommended was great. The way how to get there was always correct. And I realized I didn't have to deal with websites that are in a different language. I didn't have to deal with geo redirects, which often happen, or like language redirects that often happen when you are in a different country. I didn't have to scroll on my phone to find like the opening hours of a shop. I just got the answer in ChatGPT. Everything worked. Everything was convenient. I loved it. I also talked to ChatGPT a lot on that vacation. And I decided, okay, or I realized this change that's happening. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be more fundamental, and it's coming faster than I expected. And yeah, I didn't want to work in a space where I'm like a victim of this change or just somebody being affected, trying to survive. I was very sure that this is a big change that is coming, and I wanted to be part of it. And yeah, that's when I joined Peek AI.
Yeah, really cool story. And before we go like deeper and deeper into this rabbit hole of geo or LLM optimization or whatever the terminology is, for the listeners who are not super deep into the past 15 years of search, can you maybe describe, like, what was the early days like when you got involved into optimizing search for search engines, etc., and how did this evolve, like all the way leading up to LLMs and chatbots today? Like, how did this space of SEO evolve over the past, what was it, like 10, 15 years that you've been involved?
More like 20.
Wow.
Yeah, how did it start? Actually over 20, I just realized. Just had an epiphany how old I am. When I got started with SEO, it was all about putting the exact keyword in your title, putting the exact keyword in the H1 tag, repeating the keyword 5 times in the content, 1 times bold, once in italic, maybe putting it in a subheadline, and then getting links, ideally with the keyword in the link text. That was the only thing that mattered. And I have to admit, me and everybody else who was doing SEO, were probably also producing a lot of spam because it worked, right? You didn't have to actually need helpful content. And then over time it evolved. Google got better at understanding that if I have a page on my website that's called Partners 15, and it contains 10 links to random website, this has nothing to do with my website. And then there's a page Partner 16 that also contains 10 links, and et cetera, et cetera. And also all the links that I have are such links, that maybe that's not very natural. And Google started recognizing that certain types of content are not that great. So there was the Panda update, the Penguin update, that were very, very big updates, and earlier already the Florida update. And they wiped out a lot of spammers. Like there were people who were earning 10,000, 100,000 per month with their website. These updates came and their traffic was basically zero. And since then, it's been a bit more about quality. Google has introduced, and there's a big debate on how to call it, but I will call it EAT, so experience, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Google has built a system called the Helpful Content System. In the past, there was a special update for it, the Helpful Content Update. All of these things have forced SEOs more to build, I would say, better websites in the sense of better for the users. Google has also, with the Core Web Vitals and mobile readiness, force people to build websites that are faster or fast loading, or at least feel like they are fast loading, and that are mobile friendly. So Google has done a lot of things that have pushed people to build websites that were actually better. So it was harder and harder to just build a website for bots. And yeah, I would say that was the evolution of SEO, how it happened. And then we got stuff like the featured snippets that would already promote one website on the top and give an answer. And
All right.
yeah, then the next step were
So
the
Google
LLMs.
got more and more sophisticated in, making it harder for SEO people to like kind of trick their algorithm. And so this whole industry matured, and now ultimately, it's not about SEO today. It's more about, the new chatbots and ChatGPT and all that kind of stuff. So ultimately, now you're seeing that chatbots are replacing search engines. Is it as simple as that? What's your take on it? Is Google losing the majority of their business? I mean, they integrate these like LLM snippets already now, but how do you see that channel? Is it yeah?
Yeah, I think replace is a bit of a strong word. What I'm seeing is there are many, many early adopters that have replaced at least half of their Google usage already with something like ChatGPT or Perplexity. And so in my circle, almost everybody, I would say. But if we look at the broader population, the vast majority of people is still using Google for the vast majority of their search cases. But Google has now started serving on roughly 25, maybe 30% of searches a AI overview, which is also an LLM written answer to my question and might lead me to ask follow-up questions instead of clicking on a link. Google has also started to test AI mode, which is basically the same as the ChatGPT interface, right? It's a long text answer that triggers me to reply with another chat message. There are some links, but there are not these 10 blue links below. So I would not say Google is going to be replaced completely anytime soon, but definitely traffic that used to go to this 10 blue links is now more and more going to just reading an answer from an LLM and then potentially not even clicking anymore.
Yeah, you touched on some things and some questions that I had. So how would you how would you describe the adoption curve? Can you elaborate on this a little bit? So you're saying, do you have any numbers in terms of adoption? So what I'm really interested in, and why I personally brought you on, is it feels like this is a new way for people to discover products and services, right? So I think there's no doubt that, already now there's significant amount of traffic and searches going through these chat interfaces. So I'm just expecting this to be like a much more important channel moving forward. So my question is like, where are we?
Yes.
Like, is this small? Is this like for somebody like an Idealo? Obviously, you don't have to share internals, or like the clients that you guys see. Like, how big of a channel on average are these LLMs today for the average brand and the average product out there?
The honest answer is nobody knows. And I can give you two extremes. There are companies that measure it in traffic, like how many clicks do I get? Companies that do that usually see ChatGPT at less than 1% of Google, especially consumer companies. But traffic is probably the wrong metric, because in Google, something like 40% of all searches still lead to a click on a website. In ChatGPT, that value is probably between 1% and 20%. So this is actually not a good way to measure where people are searching. And another extreme is, I recently saw numbers from an agency. They looked in their web analytics and 0% of their leads came from ChatGPT, according to traditional marketing attribution. But then they started a form and asked people when they signed up, where did you hear about us? And over 20% said ChatGPT. And there are a couple of companies, especially companies serving, I would say, solo marketers, solo entrepreneurs, solo builders, vibe coders, that already see more leads and more revenue from ChatGPT than from Google. So it really depends on your industry. And traffic is the wrong metric. That is why many people still think, oh, it's just 1%, it's less than 1%. And attribution doesn't work that well, because sometimes ChatGPT doesn't send a referrer, sometimes they do, sometimes they give you a UTM parameter, sometimes they don't. So in your Google Analytics, some LLM traffic will end up in organic, some will end up in referral, and you actually have to create a custom segment with a very, very, very long regular expression on the referrer to get some kind of idea how much traffic you're really getting. And even then, you will be surprised if you put a form and just ask your prospects, ask your clients, where did you hear about us? In general, we see in B2B SaaS and B2B services the biggest adoption.
So is it then what you're saying is mostly that Google search is like very like people are further down their decision making process, further down the funnel, and they're like, they just click and they kind of know what they want. And then in ChatGPT, it's more like brand recognition, and they would end up in organic brand searches or like type in your URL directly. And this is how ChatGPT and others are contributing to the sale.
Yeah, I would actually not agree with that. I see it
was a question. I have no clue about that stuff.
Yeah. All good. So when we look at conversion rates of the traffic, the conversion rate of ChatGPT is for most companies higher than for traffic from Google. And I've seen numbers like 6 times higher, 10 times higher. The highest I saw was 23 times higher. So what happens in Google is my whole user journey consists of searches, right? I search for what is Bitcoin? And then my next search is where to buy Bitcoin. And then, I don't know, what is a ledger? Stuff like that. And then which ledger to get. And I don't know what else people search for. And all of these searches, they trigger a click to a website. It's measurable. Somebody sees it in their web analytics. Maybe somebody even makes money because they show me an ad or give me a retargeting cookie. But in ChatGPT, I ask these questions, I get an answer, I ask the next question. I never need to go to another website. I don't need to go to your help center. I don't need to go to your informational blog article. I just get the information in the chat. So when I then actually leave ChatGPT, I'm already qualified. I've already made a decision. So I wouldn't say that people are further down the funnel in Google. I would say whatever funnel stage people are in, on Google, they have to click to a website, and that somebody notices that. And on ChatGPT, I only really have to click to a website when I want to take an action.
Very interesting thought. Like the chatbots are kind of absorbing the entire decision-making funnel and then just like send the users to you at the very end. Super interesting point, actually.
Yes, and it's a problem, right? Because if you are a large company, you produce content, and at the end of the year, you take a look. How many people visited my blog, my help center? Did the interviews get more clicks than the product announcements? And then you can make a plan for next year, what content to produce. But when nobody visits your website anymore, it becomes very hard to justify why you even created this content, which content was helpful. Many companies that have like more sophisticated content marketing, they try to assign to each content piece, how many user journeys did this help with? But again, if people don't click, if they get the answer in ChatGPT, maybe because of your content, but without clicking, it becomes a huge attribution system for many companies.
An attribution problem, you mean?
And I think,
yeah,
an attribution problem, like a big challenge, because you just don't know which of your content worked, which didn't work.
Yeah, lots to unpack. We went pretty deep already. I think we're gonna dive into this maybe a little more. Before we do so, taking one step back here. How do you how is the current share of sources of LLMs of products that you see out there? So like if you're training an geo intern tomorrow, like what products do they need to look at? How do you describe, what's important, which tools, ChatGPT versus Claude versus Perplexity versus whatever is out there? Like what is your landscape look like in your mind today?
I would always say, or almost say, it's ChatGPT, full stop. Of course, if we are honest, Google AI overviews also have very, very significant market share, but it's harder to track because it's mixed in with Google search. And if we look at something like Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, DeepSeek, none of these have consistently even 10% market share if we look at data over multiple months or look at various countries. And if you want to focus your effort, focus is on ChatGPT. I think Perplexity has a lot of like hype in the media as being like the second largest, but actually in some countries, Claude has already overtaken them. Gemini is on a good way to overtake Perplexity in most countries. And there is this silent champion AI overviews from Google that sit on every third or fourth keyword. So I would really focus on AI overviews and ChatGPT if I were to focus on a system.
And yeah, now let's take one step further. Like what's maybe even comparing it. I mean, this is not an SEO podcast, but I don't want to go like too deep into that, but maybe even comparing it, like now you have this monolithic, mysterious black hole that, absorbs decision-making process, that sends traffic, that, it tracks usage, etc. And this is probably pretty much like 15, 20 years ago when people were looking at the algorithm of Google and like, how do we trick that? Now, what's the current state? What's the current state of the market? How do people see these models today? Maybe even like, how do they attempt to get more visibility, maybe even comparing it, if it makes sense, to what it used to be like in the more classic SEO world.
Yeah, so the sad reality is that it is very easy to manipulate some of these models, especially Google AI overviews and Perplexity. I feel ashamed for the tricks I have to share now, or for the advice, because what you do is very, very simple. You perform a search that you want to rank for. In some of these models, you can then with the browser plugin see what are the fan out queries, so the searches that the model is conducting based on your prompt. But let's say you are a crypto advisor and you want to be listed when people search for best crypto advisor. You go to your own website where it's very obvious that it's your website. You create a blog article and you call it something like 10 best crypto advisors in, I don't know, Europe. And then you list yourself as number one. And then you list some random people, like they should be crypto advisors, but maybe not like your main competitors. List them on position 2 to 10. And then you create the next article, I don't know, the 15 best crypto advisors in the United States, or the best crypto advisors for a diversified portfolio, or the best crypto advisors for launching a new coin, or the best crypto advisors for NFTs. And you create 50 of these articles, and you can even use ChatGPT to help you, and you publish it. And the very embarrassing truth is Google AI overviews and Perplexity will pick these up. And you can see this a lot when you search for the best SEO agencies in these systems, and then click on the sources. And you will notice that there are 100 SEO agencies out there that create a blog article called 10 best SEO agencies and put themselves on position 1. This gets especially macabre when people search for the best SEO, because I regularly see blog articles that list people that I personally knew who died 2 or 3 years ago. And these LLMs that write these articles still list them in these top 10 lists, or list Google employees as the best SEOs, even though they're actually not. And I don't recommend anybody with a proper brand to do this long term. But if you want short-term results, Unfortunately, in AI overviews and in Perplexity, this is how you get it. So if you're looking to short-term influence them, this is the way to go.
Just so if I understood correctly, so in the old world, there was on-page and off-page optimization in SEO. I don't even know if people still say that, but so you had initiatives that you conduct on your own site, putting in more content, optimizing the structure, loading speed, all that kind of stuff. So that's all on your site or on site. On site, I think what it was called, and then on page, off page, I don't even remember. And then there was like off-site, off-page stuff, which was essentially generating backlinks that point to your site and to your pages. So what you're now describing is like a very shitty tactic that is on page, correct? Like on your own site. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes. You can also do that on other sites. And that's then actually the little bit less scammy thing. If you can get large news and media publishers, for example, to write positively about you. And you can do this the ethical way with digital PR and by seeding interesting studies and content and maybe getting an interview. But also here, you can go the unethical route. And right now it works very, very well, unfortunately, because on a website like Forbes, you can buy an article, right? Everybody knows this. And you can just buy an article and write, what is the best crypto podcast? And you can recommend yourself. And it has a high likelihood that the LLMs will pick it up as a source. Again, this might not work long term, right? People will abuse it too much. The models will have to deal with it. So I'm hesitant in advising anybody to do this or recommending it. But right now, also this works very, very well. And then for more larger brands that have a reputation, that don't want to be too spammy, of course, the idea is to do proper digital PR. Just make sure their brand is regularly mentioned in a positive context on websites from large and reputable news and media publishers. You can also go the route of working with influencers on YouTube, for example. For some topics, even Instagram and TikTok are regular sources for LLMs. And then can make sense to work with influencers on these spaces. For other topics, LinkedIn is sometimes a top 10 source. And then it makes sense to maybe write a few LinkedIn Pulse articles.
Yeah. Okay, so this sounds like very much like the old world, though. I mean, like it's just is it really just like to create mentions of my brand and like links pointing to my site then? Because this feels very, I mean, isn't that what people are doing already? Or like, are they just when they want to manipulate, like bad term, but like, or want to influence these LLMs? Are they just doing it in a more, let's say, in a more specialized or focused manner? Because I mean, what you're just describing is kind of what people are doing anyway. So how are the ones that are like forcing it, like doing it differently then?
Actually, it has huge overlap with SEO. Like the kinds of tactics that you use, the things that you do are very, very similar. And if you want a document to be picked as a source by an LLM, of course it has to rank first, right? Otherwise the LLM doesn't know about it, would not pull it in the context window, would not try to extract some chunks of text from it. So everything that's relevant for SEO still applies. But there are some differences because in SEO, it was only about ranking websites. With LLMs, you want your brand mentioned, right? The links are really a secondary thing. And I can give you one example. We had a client, they did everything right in terms of SEO. They were very, very successful. But in Perplexity, they were not mentioned at all for one of their topics. And they were the number one source. So SEO-wise, they did everything correct. And Perplexity even used them as the source to generate the answer, but it didn't mention them. And what happens is this. They had a page on their website where they said, if you don't want to work with us, here are 5 competitors we can recommend. And Perplexity picked this URL and this chunk of text, this list, and all these 4 competitors made it in the top 10 that were suggested by Perplexity every single time. And the only change they made is to put themselves on that list, like change the wording a little bit. And basically overnight, they jumped from being invisible to being the most visible brand for that topic. So this is one of these areas where Yes, it's very similar for SEO, but in the end, it's
Makes
slightly
sense.
different.
Very cool. And now you guys are, and maybe we're going to learn more about when we unpack a little bit the platform that you guys are building. So tell us a little bit about Peek. Give us an intro to the company, but then also let's focus on the product, on the platform. Where are you today? How is it supporting this new discipline? And where are you guys headed?
Yeah, sure. So the company was started beginning of this year. The founding team had the idea end of last year. And what we do is we show brands, first of all, how visible they are in LLMs and in which, we do this, of course, for each LLM, and they can define different tags and really drill down into the data, see where are they winning against competitors, where are they losing, who are actually their competitors, what sentiments are the LLMs using when they describe them. And then we show them which sources are used by the LLMs. And then, of course, there are interesting things like, let's look at a topic where the competitors are more visible than us. And let's look at the sources that ChatGPT is using for that. And then we classify these sources and can tell you things like, for this topic where you are currently not very visible, Reddit is like the number one source, or it's all editorial news and media websites, or it's LinkedIn or YouTube. So, or sometimes also it's your competitors who are actually the sources. So, and then from that, you can make different decisions. Like if it's all social media websites, you probably should talk to influencers. If the sources are all news and media websites, you can either talk to the digital PR team or try via affiliate marketing and advertorials to get insight. If you see it's your competitors, you should think about your own content strategy. So this is how we give people some hints how to optimize. And this is also the area where we are currently working on to improve, because we believe the tracking visibility part we have already figured out pretty good.
Okay. What does it mean? What does it mean to improve at that area? Can you share some stuff that's coming up, or like in the direction that you're headed there, or where your thoughts go?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing is we already have all the status about competitors, and we can tell you, here's a competitor where here's a source where 5 of your competitors were mentioned, but you were not mentioned. And then probably it should be possible for you to also get in there. But right now you need to understand the data. You need to sort, filter, sometimes export the table, work with it a little bit. And our advanced clients, especially agencies, they look at it, they figure it out immediately. But we also have many clients who would benefit from us giving much, much more concrete recommendations. And then it will be more like, here's a list of 100 potential tasks you could do, and then you can accept these or not. And we will, of course, suggest the things that we believe to be most impactful. So I think this is the first thing we want to do. And then we also want to start crawling your website, looking at differences between your content and the current sources, to then, for example, look at stuff like, hey, all the sources in this space have a product schema markup. You don't have it, right? Like if that is a relevant factor. And I think this is where it's going.
Sounds like a very interesting design space and very interesting product playground for you as a search veteran to build something like this.
Yes,
really cool.
Yeah, it's a super interesting space. We have very, very strong engineering team. Makes a lot of fun to ship features with them every week.
From the top 1,000 companies out there, I mean, you're let's say in Europe. What percentage do you feel is like seriously looks into this topic right now from the biggest 1,000 companies? I guess it's just like gut feeling.
Yeah, I mean, from the biggest 1,000, I would have to look a little bit at the industries that are represented there. My feeling is actually a lot of companies are looking into it because there is a little bit of fear of being left out. Like people understand there is a big shift coming. So a lot of companies are looking into this. We actually just crossed the threshold or are close to it of 1,000 clients.
Congrats.
And we started only, we started only this beginning of this year. So there is definitely a lot of demand for this topic out there. But most are just looking into it. I think it's a small percentage that's really already optimizing it and seeing like significant gains. We are working currently on a couple of case studies with some of our clients who have been doing it very, very successfully. So I'm looking forward to share more of that in the coming weeks.
If you were to talk to any CMO, head of growth, VP marketing, whatever, of one of these 1,000 companies, like what would be like the typical recommendation that you would get? Like, how should they get involved? What are the key steps? How should they approach it? Find the best agency, build people in house, have send your SEO head of SEO to like a new conference. Like, what is your like top 3 tips to like a marketing leader out there for a bigger organization on how to tackle this?
Yeah, I would do it similarly to how you tackle SEO, to be honest. If you rely on an agency, you will also want to rely on an agency for SEO in ChatGPT. And it can potentially be the same agency. I would, of course, challenge that agency and ask them, what are you doing? How can you show results? If we do an intervention, how quickly do we see results of it? Can you show something concrete? Etc., etc. And if you have built up in-house know-how for SEO, I would also challenge that team, and probably that team already has it on their radar. Like, hey, I expect you to also make me visible in ChatGPT. What are you doing? But also, what do you need? Because with SEO, it was often able to do it contained in one team. But with visibility in ChatGPT, when stuff like content on Reddit becomes relevant or content on YouTube, that doesn't really fall under the realm of an SEO, right? That is probably brand marketing or influencer relations or social media team, communications team. If it's about what are news and media websites saying about us, again, this is probably more brand marketing than SEO. So there are some people who say the marketer who's responsible for visibility in ChatGPT is actually the CMO, because everything needs to tie together. Brand, SEO, content strategy. So the SEO team is definitely the best equipped team to understand what needs to be done. But in many companies, they might not be the best team in terms of skills and empowerment to actually take action on all the potential things that they could do. And then they need a way to escalate this, influence the roadmaps of other teams.
Yeah, super interesting. Super interesting topic. We need to come to an end. Always saying I'm trying to stay within like roughly 30 minutes. It's super interesting. Super knowledgeable guest on this. I'm really happy you came on. It's a little bit different to, I don't know if you looked into the other episodes and what we're doing usually here. It's a little different. Like usually we're like very geeky, very nerdy, very deep in like crypto and on-chain stuff. But I think this specific topic is like just a big one in marketing, innovation in general, and I think it's also very, very relevant to many players in the crypto space. I was glad to bring you on for this and make it a little bit of a different episode. What should people check out? Like, what do you want to point people to? What should people check out about Peek? What should people read? Where should people follow you? Give them your info.
Yeah, to follow me, just search for my name on LinkedIn, Malte Landwehr. You will find me. I regularly write about this topic. For Peek, you can just go to Peek AI, peec.ai, and just click on free trial. You can do a free 7-day trial, or click on the talk to sales button if you want a more tailored demo from our sales team. Software starts at less than 100 euros per month, so I think it's very affordable for everyone. And then you can start tracking. And if all of that is too much for you, just go to ChatGPT, put in 5 prompts where you would like to rank, and just look at what are the brands that are actually ranking there, and also what are the websites that are being cited as the sources that could already surprise you. And maybe do it when you are not logged in, because otherwise your own history might very, very, very much influence the results you're seeing.
Malte, that was so interesting, so insightful, and I think also very, very actionable. I think this is really, there was a lot of advice in there that people, can think about in their day-to-day from now on. Thanks so much for coming on to this, and yeah, I hope to bring you on another time sometime. All the best for Peek, and thanks for coming on. See ya.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.